So we're gonna be making cake pops today. Well, this cake pop I'm gonna be making with white cake. So technically, you can buy any kind of box, over the counter, whatever at the store, whatever flavor you like. And then we're gonna be mixing it with some frosting. So I'm doing white cake with white frosting. First step, after you bake it, let it cool. It has to be cool to the touch. You cannot wait, let it be warm or anything like that. Because if it's too warm, the frosting will melt. So, first thing you need to do is actually crumble the cake. As you can see, it actually comes out, it's pretty easy doing it with your hand. But if you actually have a KitchenAid mixer or whatnot, or a food processor, you can also, use those because it is a lot easier. Alright, as you can see, this is how it looks after you crumble it by hand. It has to be like a fine consistency. And then now you can go ahead and put in your frosting. You only need about maybe a third of it. So you don't want to put like half or the whole can of frosting, because if you do, then it's going to come out really mushy. So what I normally do, I would actually just take a little bit first, and then I start mixing it, because you actually want your cake batter right here to actually look like the consistency of Play-Doh. Right? So after I mix the thing, I actually use the ladle first because, frosting is a little sticky. So once you get it coated in the batter, into the cake, you want it to, I actually had to add a little bit more. You can see how much I actually used. I didn't use that much because you don't want to, because if it does, it's going to be really too moist. So after you get done, a good way to test it is actually grab some and you go ahead and do a roll. Go ahead and roll one of the cake into a ball. As you can see, it's a smooth consistency. It's not breaking. It's not too sticky. Now, if you do, test it out and it still crumbles a little bit, then you might need to add a little bit more of the frosting. All right. So after you get done rolling them into cake balls, you can put them in the freezer if you have enough room in your freezer for about 15 minutes only, because if you put it in too long, it's going to start forming condensation, and that's not good for the cake balls because it needs to be dry. So since I don't have enough room in my freezer, I'm going to go ahead and put it in my fridge. You can put it in the refrigerator, but it's just going to take a little bit longer, so it has to stay in there for about 30 to 45 minutes. All right. I will see you back after these cake balls get chilled. Okay, so after your cake ball has cooled out of the fridge or the freezer, you're gonna get your sticks. I like using the 6-inch sticks because I think they're right length for these cake pops. What you do is you're gonna go ahead and melt just a little bit of those candy melts, whatever chocolate wafers, whatever color you're gonna dip your cake balls in. The reason we're dipping the sticks in the chocolate first is to actually create a nice hold for the cake balls. Because if you don't do this, you're gonna end up with when it comes time to dipping, you're gonna end up with a bunch of just chocolate covered cake balls. And after you get done putting your sticks into the cake balls and everything, you put it back in the fridge for same thing. You're putting in the freezer 15 minutes, in the fridge I would have to say at least 30 minutes till it hardens. And then after that, you're gonna go ahead and dip your cake balls. Alright, so now that the candy melts have hardened, it is time to dip your cake pops, your cake balls and sticks. So you go ahead and you can melt. So what I did with my candy melts, I melt them in the microwave using, a clear glass measuring cup. I use about like a third of a bag. So it took me about, I melted what, for about 90 seconds technically. So 3 times, 30 seconds. You don't want to go over, because if you go over, you will burn your candy. So what you're gonna do is just go ahead and dunk your cake pop into the candy and coat it. So you don't want to go ahead, you don't want to move too much. Now what you're going to do is, as you can see, I'm putting my finger here. It's going to actually help stabilize it, and you got to tap the excess candy melts. Because you can't just dip it and, take it off and stick it on to, your cake pop stand, your cake pop holder. Because then all the chocolate will just drip down and you're going to end up with a big mess. Alright. Okay. So now the candies have hardened. I'm going to go ahead and decorate. I melted some green chocolate in the glass thing, and I poured it into a disposable piping bag. Add some tips or whatnot. Do whatever you need to do. What we're going to do is just go ahead and do a quick drizzle. And you got to always turn your cake pop. It doesn't have to be, symmetrical, even or whatnot. And now I'm just going to pour some green sugar crystals. And there you go.